All right, so apparently February 2nd is the actual trade deadline. De'Aaron Fox is going to San Antonio, so now the Spurs have their number 2 guy next to Wemby, and that is a big bet on De'Aaron Fox, who is a damn good player, no doubt. But also, Zach LaVine is going to the Kings in a multi-team trade. I'm doing this as we're finding out the details about this. This was one belief I had with the Kings, which was if they're going to pull off a deal where Fox is gone, can they somehow still get at least a good player back? I mean, we know LaVine, he's a bucket getter, man, no doubt about that. He's a shooter. He can run screen actions. He can run all of the two-man actions that you want to imagine with Sabonis. I mean, Sabonis can screen for DeRozan or LaVine now. For Kings fans with Fox, it seemed like this really happened pretty fast. And I guess the bet for the Kings, I mean, it's honestly like the same bet they were making before this whole thing. Like before this trade right here, it was we want to be an elite offense and good enough on defense. Except now it's Zach LaVine in that spot as opposed to De'Aaron Fox, where you don't have a typical point guard in the starting five. I mean, we're just looking at recently here, their last game where Keon came off the bench. It was DeRozan, Fox, Sabonis, Malik Monk, and Keegan Murray. Like you can just slot LaVine into that spot, and the Kings can continue their hopes of just being a good team, because we know how it was with them for so long. Okay, let's get to the main thing of this whole trade. But yeah, man, De'Aaron Fox and Wemby. I mean, look, my thing throughout this was the Spurs don't have to do this, but look, when you think about the second best players on championship teams in recent memories, we look at Chris Middleton with the Bucks, Jalen with the Celtics. Yeah, the Celtics were a super stacked roster, and also Jalen got Finals MVP over Tatum, but he was the second best guy. You look at Jamal Murray with the Nuggets, right? We all know that Wemby is going to be one of the best. I mean, he's somewhere on the list already, but he's going to be an MVP candidate pretty soon here. And you're making the bet that De'Aaron Fox can be, with playing off of Wemby, on the level of guys like that who win championships. Obviously, the rest of the roster still has some moves to be done here, and again, I'm actually still waiting for what the exact trade is as I'm saying this, but look, what you immediately think of is the Fox-Wemby two-man game, and with Wemby's shooting, okay, I'm going to hold that thought, the rest of the trade just went in. So the Spurs dealt the 2031 Wolves pick that they got in the Dillingham deal, which that is a pretty damn good pick, because who the hell knows what the Wolves are going to be like in that amount of time. A Charlotte pick this season, and don't freak out, it's protected, it's lottery protected, the Hornets will keep that pick. The Spurs are also moving their 2027 first. They're giving the Bulls their own pick back from this season for 2025, and Trey Jones is also moving. Okay, so the Spurs were actually able to hold on to the Hawks picks, unless I'm reading something wrong. Wow, that's wild, because this year's Hawks pick is really interesting because Jalen Johnson's out, and I mean, Atlanta have lost 8 games in a row. I really hope I don't mess up any of the assets going through all this. Wow, that's surprising. I really would have assumed that the Spurs would have had to have given up like one of those Hawks picks, but maybe from the Kings standpoint, they viewed like the Minnesota pick way out there as kind of like the real big one, you know what I mean? I mean, what this feels like is the Kings telling themselves, we are okay with not getting as many picks because we got Zach LaVine, and it's just, from a pure asset management standpoint, like I'm pretty sure every analytic NBA person would be like, no, just get as many picks as you possibly can, and if it has to be with like another team where the salaries are going to be different, I think that's what a lot of people would choose to do. The Kings are betting on, like, we want to remain a decent basketball team. I don't know if that's a guarantee to happen with this, even with how good it's been with Doug Christie lately, which, to be fair, I brought up when it came to this like a couple days ago. It's just, now that I'm looking at it, I'm just really surprised they didn't get one of the Hawks pick. Okay, as I was saying, Fox, Wemby, the two-man game, like, Fox's ability to get downhill at a speed, he might be the fastest guy with the ball in the league, pretty much, right? And Wemby spotting up off of that, Wemby rolling off of that, Wemby just existing off of that. I mean, you can create so many scenarios in your head between simple pick and rolls, DHO actions, from anywhere on the floor with those two. I mean, just the simple pick and pop is going to be so tough for teams to guard. Like, you're going to have somebody's got to be in the paint ready for Fox, but then somebody's going to have to rotate over to Wemby, and that's just a lot of moving bodies. And so if the Spurs are able to add more shooting, which, by the way, they kept Devin Vassell in this. So, I mean, there's one shooter right there for you. And Chris Paul. Also, I just realized I'm going to have to talk about the Bulls got the Zach LaVine return. I got to talk about that in a second. Zach Collins was moving in the steal too. Okay, fine. And they also held on to Castle, and Chris Paul is still here as well. So, I mean, look, they've played Chris Paul and Castle together, and I feel like, I mean, obviously Fox enters the starting lineup. You do have some things to figure out there, but in the first season, it was like, oh, when he's on the floor with Trey Jones, they're just good. And then this year, it's when he's on the floor with Chris Paul, once again, there's a good team. Now he's going to be on the floor with one of the most athletic point guards in the NBA, who also is just going to be able to break down defenses without a screen, without an action from Wemby at all, just bringing the ball up floor, beat your guy off the dribble. And of course, Fox is going to get buckets off of just Wemby's presence. Now, as I say all this, look, the Spurs are 4 games below 500. They're the 12th seed in the West, so they've certainly got some work to do, but they got the foundation of a great offense. And we already know the foundation of the great defense. It's the 7'4" guy that I keep talking about. And I mean, I'm doing this in real time. And again, if I mess up something on the asset front, then my bad. But I mean, I'm looking at it, the Spurs, they still have the Hawks picks. They still have their own, I mean, next year's is like a swap with Atlanta. But I mean, they only gave up like their own 27. And I mean, again, that Wolves pick is really good. But I mean, like the Spurs, their treasure chest is not done. Like if they want to, they could once again be aggressive in the offseason or whatever to form a team around Wemby that, I mean, look, Vassell also now becomes your number 3 guy. I love Devin Vassell as a number 3 guy. I mean, we still got to see it, obviously, but like we all kind of know Vassell's just not a good enough scorer to be a number 2, and that's fine. They don't pay him like one. He was drafted with the 11th pick. His contract never hits $30 million. Crazy stuff, man. So yeah, as far as the lavine side of this, so for the Bulls return, they get Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, and their own 2025 pick. So at the end of this whole thing, the Bulls are neutral on draft picks based on the 2025 pick that I believe was top 10 protected. Yeah, it's top 10 protected. I mean, God, that was Levine's market, man. He was getting buckets this year, dude. I mean, they basically just got him for 3 NBA players. I mean, I guess you're guaranteed to have your pick now no matter what. Like, that is nice, but again, it was top 10 protected. So if you were just going to be bad, the odds were that you were definitely going to get that pick, but okay. I mean, the Bulls but they've been losing lately. Yeah, look, man, De'Aaron Fox is very good. Obviously, like, the next idea for the Spurs here is, like, they're going to give him a big contract. We'll see if it's a max. It's probably going to be a max, and so it's quite a bet on De'Aaron Fox, but again, like, him playing next to Wemby, the spacing Wemby creates, the speed that Fox has, sure, you'd love if the three-point percentage got back to what it was a year ago with him, but the more I think about this for the Spurs, I'm like, man, they held on to, like, a lot of stuff here, because that's what it feels like. And then the Kings, say they get DeRozan and Levine back, so okay, the Kings, they're gonna play some basketball.